Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear, and I hope you've been following the channel and subscribing, because I often refer to previous videos. And in the last video, we discussed my stinky amps. Also, you'll notice I got a new amp, a deluxe reverb, and I absolutely love the sound, and you can hear it here. Love that sound. It's a Fender sound. Sounds great. Definitely one of my favorite amps. However, I have two other deluxe reverbs, and as I recall, I mean, I liked them. They were okay. But they weren't my favorites by any means. Like this one is just very controllable. I mean, I have the volume there on the new one, the one I like most, about 3.5, right? Just a great sound, man. Just a great sound. That piqued my interest, of course. And why wasn't I playing my other two deluxe reverbs? You know, if it sounded so good, why wasn't I playing them? Well, let me tell you something. I hooked them up and discovered something really drastic. Man, the sound wasn't even close. And I can show you that right here. Now this is the closest one to the new one. And I should say it's not new, it's used, but just has a great sound, you know, the one I got. So I put it on the A-B switch and put the deluxe reverb, and I have just the volume at 3, but you'll see the difference. So here's the new one, the nice one. If I switch over, and this is just on channel 3, this is my old one. At the exact same setting, but it's on volume 3 and it's already kind of blaring, you know what I mean? You can hear it. And here's the new one at 3.5 volume, so it should be louder. Granted, it's on the floor, whereas the new one, or the old one, I'm sorry, is on the on a speaker cabinet. But definitely can hear the difference, and we'll try it again. Here's the new one. All right. Okay. me, has a much nicer, warmer sound. Doesn't sound out of control, and a little quieter. I hear some hiss in my old one. That's the new one. Switch over to the old one. Volume at 3. Now here's the new one at volume 3.5. So there's something definitely going on here. All right, here's the new one, or the old one, I'm sorry. If I switch over to the new one, so you could say, hey, the old one's louder. True. But I don't like the sound as well. I mean, it's almost like it's pushing the amp too much. I'm hearing some hiss, which I don't hear at all in the new one. Now this could be a ton of different things, I guess. Starting with the speaker. Right? Maybe the speakers are different. Possible. I don't think so, though. I think they're the same. And if I had to guess what it is, it's simply somebody changed the tubes in the new one. Probably from a 12AX7 preamp tube to maybe a 12AT7 or AY7, I'm not sure. But I definitely like the sound of the new amp more than the old one, and maybe this is why they haven't been really my favorite amps, because they're kind of blasting, you know. Very interesting. I'd very much like to find out what's going on here, you know. And if it's nothing more than a preamp tube change, that would be a blessing in disguise, because then I'd have 3 amps that are some of my favorites, which right now, my 2 old ones, don't sound like it at all, really, you know. Yeah, and I'm guessing that that's what it is. Now, it could be something else. You know, who knows what's been done to this amp, the new one. Maybe they cut the bright cap off or something like that. I don't know. I'm hoping it's just a tube change. So I'm going to inspect the new amp and look at the tubes, see what I have there, compare them to the old amps, and see if a change needs to be made. And man, that would be super to get all the amps sounding the same, the 2 old amps, to sound as good as this new one. Now, I don't know, and that might take care of this hiss problem too, you know. Because with a 12AX7, of course, you're pushing, more voltage, more volume, quite frankly. But for clean sound, it's not a sound that I really like at all, and doesn't seem as controllable as this new one. So I'm hoping and keeping my fingers crossed that is the solution. And if it is, man, what a great find, Because quite frankly, I kind of gave up on the deluxe reverbs a little bit. Only because of the volume things, and the noise level. And I thought, man, that doesn't seem right, Whereas on the other one, it's crystal quiet. I'm sure that the hiss is still there, and it's probably coming from all my pedals, but it's not as pronounced, and that could very well be that it needs a tube change, Now, in most amps, especially high gain amps, right, they always use the 12AX7 preamp tube. And in fact, I had Supros, and man, I couldn't stand them, because, well, there was no headroom whatsoever. Man, you'd try to turn it up a tiny bit, it would start to distort on the clean sound. And I mean, when I wanted a clean sound, I wanted it clean, and not distorted. Well, it wasn't until I changed the tubes from a 12AX7, and I mean, I went down, I think, 2 tube choices to a 12AU7, right? So that gave me a ton of headroom. I could turn the amp up without it breaking up, and now it's one of my favorite amps for sure. I'm hoping that it's similar here. And again, we have a 12AX7, right? It's the strongest tube, most powerful tube. Below that you have the 12AT7 or the 12AY7. They're about the same. And they don't push the amp as hard as the 12AX7. But then below that, you have the 12AU7, right? Which is like a wimpy tube, right? Power-wise. However, especially for clean sounds, whereas, you turn up the amp and man, it just suddenly breaks up, it can take care of that. Now the exchange is less volume, okay? Yeah, you get less volume from the lower powered tubes, if I hate to say that, but rated tubes, the 12AX7 being the strongest, 12AU7 being the weakest, and then in the middle, the AT7. But in exchange for less volume, well, like this new Fender Deluxe Reverb, you get a much nicer clean tone with a lot of headroom. You can turn up the amp without it breaking up, those kinds of things. So I'm really hoping that this is what I'm hearing, and if that's the case, it may solve the sound from these two other deluxe reverbs, and I mean, one of them I'm not even going to show you because, man, I set the volume at 3. Oh my God. It about blew me out of the room. Man, it was so loud, but not in a nice way, I don't think, for clean sound. Now if I was going for a high gain kind of thing, then it would make sense, But here for clean sounds, and, just using pedals and things, definitely the lower tubes make much more sense, So this is going to be part 1, and I'll let you know what I find out. What if I find out that the tubes are the same in all the amps? Then what? Well, I don't know. Then there's something else going on with that new amp. Why does it sound so different to the other two? I don't know. There may be some kind of modifications in there, or a different speaker. I know they all said, Fender design Jensen speaker. So I'm assuming it's the Jensen C12K, I think it is. But maybe it isn't, totally different sound for sure. Now you can say, oh well, yeah, but it takes power away from the clean sound. But for me, I like that much better. I think it's a much nicer, smoother sound. Whereas here it's being pushed so hard, it seems like. That's the kind of feel it has and sound it has, So we will see. And I'm really hoping it is a tube change. And I would do the tube change to both of my old deluxe reverbs and hopefully get the same or similar sound, to the new one. Right? And if that's the case, then I have 3 amps that are some of my favorites. Whereas right now, only one of them is, So maybe that this new amp is a blessing in disguise, because I didn't realize that you could, maybe tame that volume a little bit and make the amp much more usable. Alright, so I'll let you know in part 2, what I discover. We'll go from there. Alright, very good. See you next time. Okay, bye.